right, so welcome to another episode of the AI Powered Accountant. And today I have with me Nero Paldano. Nero, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Chanel. Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Been a long time coming and happy to be on board.
Yeah, awesome, Matt. You and I go way back, and I haven't obviously seen you in a while. You're living a different life now in a different country. So, Matt, introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself, what you've been up to, your business. You've started a new business, which is super exciting. I've been following your journey online and it looks awesome. So would love to hear a bit about, what you've been up to and a bit about your story.
Sure, no worries. Thanks. So we go way back. So I think you've been there for most of the major touch points. Growing up in Australia, first round of getting exposed to the working world. I was in the consulting space. Had a really cool opportunity to get involved with IBM and worked with their startup facing areas. Got me really exposed to working with young entrepreneurs, idea makers, and I fell in love with product. So I moved across from consulting to a log tech business, working in the shipping space. They really wanted a whole revamp of their software platform. A cool opportunity to leverage something that existed, learn and go from there. And that took me a lot further than I thought. I was expecting it to be this, cool 1 year, 16-month stint and then I'm out. But I was there for almost five years, moved from Melbourne, worked with them in Singapore in a BD space, and got a lot of exposure in Southeast Asia, Europe, and in America as well, which is awesome. And really that got my brain churning in terms of how do I find a way to do my own thing in this space? And that led me to kind of almost where I am today. I've been lucky enough to have some great co-founders around me and a great support group. So started a business early in 2018, just before COVID, called Haler. So we were a big data business looking at how do you connect all these crazy rideshare apps going around with surge pricing and try and optimize urban travel. And a lot of those apps were quite close source. They were just controlling their algorithms and their data. So we looked at ways to combine that into essentially a super app to help governments and people just make better decisions. COVID got in the way of that, but that kind of went into hibernation. And luckily enough, I found a really great opportunity, again, back in my logistics roots area, to help shipping businesses. And they were really struggling to operate in the realm of COVID and this no-touch contact universe. So we really came in with some fast-flying products to go, look, you have an immediate problem to just operate. How can we solve that? And that turned into my business called Quick that I co-founded with some really great industry experts as well. That business has been running for almost 5 years now. We managed to scale into 11 countries, primarily in emerging markets, Southeast Asia, India, Middle East, getting into African subcontinent and hopefully into South America by the end of this year. So great work the team's doing there. And what I really learned there was the value of understanding customers on a global scale. It's easy enough for these large businesses to, well, I say easy, but it's common enough for large business to take on huge enterprise projects to modernize and standardize their international footprint and how their businesses operate. But where Quick operates is really between that big enterprise system and the customers at each locale. That's where you see the disconnect. You see teams going from full digital to, okay, it cannot function anymore. I'm going back to paper and Excel, and I'll just manually feed it back in. Yeah. Really found that a huge gap. And I'm sure with the work you've been doing around AI consulting, that's always the first place to hit. How do you bridge that back? So getting that experience was great. And Quick is obviously quite a wide platform covering finance, operations, back office integrations with community providers, etc. But the common theme, Shana, was always finance. It was always, look, if you can solve my AR and my AP problem, I need you on ground ASAP. Everything else was a consultative, let's figure it out, understand our pain points, but everyone knew the problems when it came to AR and AP. So that's where me and the team got the idea, look, why do we just focus on logistics and why don't we look at a business that can focus solely on ARAP much deeper and much wider as a scope, go blue ocean, and really leverage AI in terms of making these solutions more accessible to different sized businesses, not just large multinational enterprises. And that was where Zanbio's concept birthed from, and that's where we've been going. So Zanbio is my current baby, my project, and again, some amazing co-founders from my businesses experience in the past have come along, and we are an AR and AP automation platform, and we are AI first in everything, just because it makes a lot of sense.
Man, what a journey. Sounds like you've sort of been through a few different things and obviously learned some really amazing things. What I really loved there was you said your problem first, right? There's a problem to be solved in APAR. Let's solve that problem, right? And I think that's where a lot of startups go wrong, where they've got this great idea, but are you actually solving a problem? Because that's what business is for, solving a client or a customer's problem, right? So tell us more about Zanbio. So obviously it's an APAR AI first platform. If you don't mind just sharing a bit about how it works and then how you are actually leveraging AI right now within that business.
Yeah, sure. And I think leveraging AI just speaks so much to understanding that space as well. So where Zanbio sits is today you have pretty much every business has some form of AR or AP function, whether it's system driven or a strong finance team who are producing invoices, chasing customers, getting payments, putting it back in the ledger, and similarly receiving invoices from vendors, trying to consolidate them, figure it out, negotiate, debate, and then make payments out. Now, what many of the solutions today and historically have been around is recording those activities, tracking those activities, and giving you a reactive view of, okay, what has happened. Now, where Zanbio sits in is not in that space. We're not here to disrupt the SAP HANAs and the giant operators in this world, but it's really about closing that data loop. Because at the end of the day, Zanbio and even Quick have always been a data first business. We've been looking at how can we help businesses to create unique and strategic data sets that help them close that decision-making loop. Most businesses today have some level of trust and understanding of how their business operates internally. But where it gets volatile is, how are my customers going to behave? What are they doing? What are they going to do? And that is your lifeblood, right? Cash is king. It is the lifeblood of your business. So understanding that and building that into your business's heartbeat, that's where Zanbio sits in. How do we collect every single milestone from the time of you communicating an invoice to your customer, from, how long do they take to open it? Do they forward it to somebody else? Do they ignore it? Does it bounce, go into spam? All these little things that maybe get ignored are things that on a large scale, when you're a FMCG operator with 18,000 invoices a month, it matters, because 5% of that it could be a significant part of your cash flow. And it's about connecting all those data points all the way through to payment and reconciliation and even taxation. Every country, every business type has a different complexity, and today it delays your cash collection because customers come back to you and say, you've got to rewrite this because of tax code XYZ. You need to give me a discount. I need 7 more days to reprocess because et cetera, et cetera. And these are the kind of impacts that businesses really don't need to be taking. These are the kinds of work and efforts that their finance teams don't need to be spending time on. That's where Zanbio comes in. How do we not come in, and it's never a case of replacing a finance team. It's a case of, how do we get these manual reductive tasks out of your team's portfolio so you can guarantee SOP, you can speed up your cash collection or smooth your cash outflow, and your team can spend time being strategic, being smart, looking at innovative ideas, being experimental. That's Zanbio's kind of ethos in AP, AR, anywhere in the finance world.
That's super cool. Cash is king and it's important. And if you can get your cash, say 5 days earlier, like, it's a constant thing. I'm working with my team. I'm like, hey, how long is it taking for us to collect our cash, right? And it's interesting because when you work in an ecosystem of, say you got a client, a consultant, you've got a supplier, the one holding the buck is the one paying the payroll at the end, right? And the payroll date doesn't change, right? But, that's a complexity we have in our business. We've got our payroll, and payroll has to go at the same time every month. So, you feel the cash impact more than anyone else. So that's really interesting. You also mentioned how this is not to replace, say, an SAP or an Oracle, but it's more to supplement and do more value add tasks, right? It's going down to that value add task where what you said was not, and it is with most AI. You're not trying to replace people. You're trying to change the work they do so they do more value added stuff, which then drives the longevity of your tenure of your staff. And you got happier staff. They're doing more value added work. They're not doing the boring stuff as well, right? So that's really interesting. Now, so you're based in Jakarta right now, is that right?
Based in Jakarta, yes, out of Indonesia.
Jakarta, traveling and working around a few different regions as well.
Yes. So right now, Zanbio is in its very early stages. We've been around since February of this year. So one of the strategies of the business right now is really to localize, because that's where the huge value is, right? There are many international players that are in this space of API automation, but they're coming in with products that work, again, 80%. So you're only fixing 80% of the remainder of the problem. And that's really not what people are after today. They're after that seamless end-to-end, just stop and go, click and collect, right? So what we're focused on is right now for the first phase of the business, understanding the industry. Has been a bit of industry research we've done, market research, working with vendors, and building a product that's very fit for purpose for Indonesia. And I think that will be the short-term strategy for the next few months. And we're already preparing ourselves to go into our next few markets, again, in Southeast Asia, where I think there's a huge opportunity to disrupt this place, because there tends to be, unfortunately, less government or institutional push for standardization and digitization. So it's really up to these businesses to take that brave and bold first step. And what they're lacking is a tool that can convince their customers to go through that change with them. So we're focusing on those areas to start with.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Now, obviously, you've seen what's happened in technology and AI, and how AI has just now come in and changed the way we work, right? Now, in your view, Nero, are there any particular industries or sectors you believe that would benefit most significantly from AI in the coming years? If you were to handpick or cherry pick a few industries that you'd see the highest ROI from an AI perspective, well, what are some of those sectors?
It's a good question. I've thought about it quite a bit in the past. The blanket answer is, I think every industry, to be honest, will benefit from it. But to the depth of which industries will benefit the most, I think it really is going to be more business functions than industries. It'll be the business functions that are extremely human and process heavy, and especially the ones that are not internal. Those are the ones that are really going to get impacted in a positive way, from my perspective. It's always the teams that are involved in talking with external vendors, plus third-party agencies and other systems out there, ecosystem, when you have dependencies that your business cannot invest to speed up and to streamline. That's really where the value of AI is going to impact first, because it's going to completely do away with that. Today, the agents coming in are really making these really complex, previously impossible tasks of, hey, I need to file a report to the government tax system for every invoice. We do 5,000 invoices a week. How do I keep up? The solution was hire some people and just work really hard. Yeah. Today, it's a $20 subscription to OpenAI, and you train the agent to do it for you. And you go focus on something else. That's really where that immediate change is going to happen. I'm really excited to see, I think it's going to be an explosion of agentic usage over the next few months.
Yeah, you make some really interesting points there, right? It's that transactional stuff that's just going to be taken away. You reduce your dependencies. Now, something that I've kept thinking about, so, when you look at a scope of work, and, I use this example a lot. If you look at a full scope of work, it's the bottom 20-30% of transactional work that have typically either been just done by humans or offshored or outsourced, like you said, dependencies, right? Now, we've got an offshoring and outsourcing arm of our business, and for us as well, it's really important to use technology, because I think that scope of work is going to be taken over by AI, right? Now, in Australia, it makes sense because the cost of labor is so high, right? Right. So the cost of labor is so high, minimum wages are expensive. So, for a human to do that stuff, and it's a person that's getting paid maybe $70,000, $80,000 a year, the cost of replacing that makes sense. Now, is that the same in the APAC region? Because I know the cost of labor is cheaper. Are businesses still going, hey, listen, it doesn't give me a cost advantage now of using AI because there's a cost of implementation and maintenance of AI versus just getting some humans to do it?
Awesome question, because it's definitely one of the biggest challenges we face. We have obviously explored Zambio into more mature markets like Australia, and the ROI is immense. You can drop a single resource and you can justify some pretty significant licensing investment, right? But yes, if you go from a pure headcount reduction approach in this area of the world, it's really going to be a struggle to justify enterprise pricing, and if that's your solution. But what we stumbled across the board, Chanel, was a really interesting trend. It didn't matter the cost of the resource, the problem was always the same. The problem was I have human error, which is a risk to my business. I have turnover, which is a risk to my business. I have trustability, which is a risk to my business. And eventually, even if it's affordable, I have a scalability challenge.
Yeah.
Right? And when you hit those four nails on the head, it opens up, I think, conversations we've had in the past as well. It opens you up into the rest of the business world, where it no longer matters if you're in Australia, Timbuktu, or the center of the US. If you have a cash flow problem, you go into a bank and a bank is charging you 3 to 5% interest rate, right? So you're impacting your margins every step of the way. And it's not that you're going to make that 3 to 5% back by cutting one or two headcount, but you're going to make it back by ensuring you're collecting 20 to 40% faster, by ensuring you have way more accuracy in your cash flow, so that you're not jumping last moment to your investors or shareholders or dipping into your own pocket to say, I need capital or I can't make payroll. Instead, you can make long-standing strategic decisions to say, I will collect, my business is healthy, I just can't line it up with my cash flow. So I can make more strategic decisions with bank financing, whatever it is, to support you along that way while you kind of adapt to that business reality. And today, that's the insight we find is very, finger in the air for most finance teams to go, we're probably going to make money enough to pay payroll this month, or quickly take it to management and say, we need to raise X amount in the next 7 days to make payroll.
That's really interesting. I love that, because I think what you're saying is, hey, it's more around the accuracy and then the scalability as well, right? And you're not dealing with, say, onboarding training of new staff. If you want to scale to the effort of 50 staff, you have that scalability with technology, right? And the economies of scale there. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, now, in terms of resistance or concerns from employees, clients, have you experienced any of that over the last, and I know you've got a few different businesses, bringing in technology, bringing in AI, have you had resistance, and how have you sort of managed that within your teams?
As with any other changes, there's always resistance. Within the team, I guess it's less resistance, more slow adoption, if not lack of excitement for adoption. And there, what I find is it kind of has to be a bit of a top-down approach. They have to see the business taking AI first approach, and the business leveraging AI and all these tools in the market today, not to replace themselves, but to optimize the way they operate. And like you said, to get rid of that manual task nobody wants to do. And seeing that and being open to that level of education and adopting these new technologies, that's what it's going to take for your team. We're leaving aside the stubborn Sallies who's just going to sit there and say, no AI, just Excel. But I think that's the reality. Now, when it comes to customers, what I find is really interesting with AI is it's all about, fear of change, this belief that this process has been the process for 20 years and how could it ever change? And at the same time, it's trustability again. And our general approach with customers, with any sort of business strategy we have when it comes to different verticals, different sectors, different industries, has been to soothe the pain before we solve the problem. Coming into businesses saying I have an AI solution that's going to replace your CFO with a GPT is too much. It's too much. I mean, I'd be terrified if someone told me that. But when we go to businesses and kind of what we touched on before and say, look, we've mapped how your industry operates. We've identified some really great opportunities to just soothe the pain, get rid of that manual tedious work using AI. It introduces it in a much more gentle package. And you can see a minimal change, but a maximal impact to their everyday life. And that builds a trustability. Okay, if we can't do this, then maybe we can scale it a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And the real value I find in that, Shanu, is, again, Zanbio is also built around just leveraging and creating data, right? And the more low level you can get your platform or your product implemented, the more valuable and just raw data you're able to understand. So it doesn't need to be a super GPT automatically doing a P&L and forecast for your business, but it can be as little as an AI agent distributing and tracking every single invoice and every single customer payment coming in. So you have absolute to the second exact information on how information is entering your system. It's no longer reliant on, okay, my finance team is busy, so they'll ledger the incoming cash flow on the Friday. No, you know that it comes in generally 7 a.m. Mondays and 6 p.m. on Thursdays. So you can plan your cash flow down to that level. That's really where we come in to kind of soothe that problem early and build that trustability. So by the time we go in with the revolutionary or slightly more adventurous idea and solution, it's something that's easy to adopt from the top down and bottom up.
That's really cool. I love that. Now, I would love to have a link of a demo to your product. If you don't mind recording a bit of a video on how the product works, the analytics and stuff, because I'm trying to visualize it. I haven't played with it myself. I'd love to share that link on this podcast so people can see how we can leverage data to make better decisions and drive cash flow quicker. If you don't mind, I'd love to sort of see how it works.
Of course.
That'll be amazing. Now, all this data and giving AI access to all this data, what are the risks that you're seeing, and what are the steps you are taking proactively? Because it's a common theme in conversations I'm having right now. They're like, hey, what's your AI security like? You're giving them access to all this information, and then you got these videos like AI 2027 coming out and all these crazy theories going out, and it creates a little bit of not panic, but people are concerned, right? Giving access to this data. What are the steps your business is taking in terms of data security around AI?
Sure. There's a really interesting story actually that I came across last week in that exact space. Zanbio sponsored a CFO conference, and it's held by this organization called CXO Society, and they've been really great. They have CFO and CIO and CTO conferences generally in the Southeast Asia region. So the attendees are quite curated. It's finance directors, financial controllers, vice presidents of finance, and CFOs. And Indonesia Jakarta was one of their last stops on their tour. And I sat in on one of the final conference talking points, and the one of the speakers was saying they ran a survey, right? With all these finance kind of thought leaders in the room. They said, look, who uses AI or AI tools today to help you with decision making? Say about 70% of the room put their hand up. Okay, are you using internal custom-built GPTs, or using ChatGPT or Grok or Sora, Gemini? And they go, yeah, we're using subscriptions. Our business pays for it. Great. And they say, okay, what do you use? The desktop or the web version? They go, it's always the desktop version. Okay, awesome. Why? It's more secure. And then he asked, what do you do with it? We go, we get it to check our formulas on our P&Ls, and we upload our forecasts, and that was like a pin drop moment to realize if it's this whole area of AI governance, and you hit the nail on the head. If you're not on top of it, it's an innocent, extremely experienced, obviously technocratic, forward-thinking CFO going, great. I don't need to bother my 2IC to check formulas. He can spend that time doing something valuable or just going home on time, and I can feed this into AI and make sure my numbers are clean. But that data is now sitting in the GPT, the OpenAI cloud somewhere. Yeah. And who knows what's going to happen, right? And this is such a common thing that's going to happen in multiple themes. And I think the two biggest drivers of change in the next maybe 12 to 24 months is going to be the rise of agentic AI and really leveraging it the more you understand how it can be leveraged, and the absolute zero down focus on AI governance. Us personally, our ethos is we are working with probably the most sensitive part of any business. So we do not expose our data to public GPTs. We do not leverage public GPTs. We're more focused on having our internal algorithms or internal AI agents to digest masked data and provide information back that's non-contextualized for the agent. So it goes back to the customers. Oh, here's a nice number for me to look at. I, as the user, understand where this number came from. The AI just sees a whole bunch of rows on a spreadsheet and is figuring something out for me. So we try to mask it that way. We obviously, we've always worked on a enterprise infrastructure. We've been Microsoft Stack since day one. And it's important to have that fragmented database and those fragmented data sources. So we've had the fortunate experience of the last few years working with enterprises to really drill down, what do they focus on and what do they need, so that when it came to this AI era, our infra, our security layers, our protocols, our general SOPs are already kind of up to scratch. So it's been a challenge we haven't had to face yet, but I'm not cocky enough to think that there's going to be something that we need to worry about in the next 6 months. To have to constantly be keeping an eye on it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer. Like 100%, right? Like that whole ethical AI risk with your data is going to be a big thing moving forward. Segmenting your data so the AI doesn't actually know what's happening, right? Is great. And then, working with large platforms, enterprise platforms like Microsoft, AWS, like they've got hundreds of thousands of engineers making sure that the data is safe, right? And then, it's really important for businesses I'm working with here to localize that data as well. So they, so due to certain, say the medical industry, they have to localize the data, local servers. So that's some of the stuff we do as a business going, hey, we'll localize it. And, how I handle this question with clients is they go, hey, what security do you provide? I go, what's your policy? What are your requirements? And they go, well, I can mirror yours. Yeah, that's a really easy solution.
I like the way we're going.
What are your policies, procedures, and we'll mirror that because we know we can. So it's an interesting topic. I was having a chat with our CTO this morning as well. We're trying to build something in the background around ISO standards, frameworks, and building an AI agent that is going, hey, are we actually, because a lot of businesses are adopting AI policy, but are you actually enforcing it and are you complying? So that enforcement and compliance, we're trying to build something in the background where not only do we go and implement agents to businesses and we go, here's your AI policy, then we can clip on another agent that goes, hey, you are actually compliant.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting topic, and I sort of see that trend coming now. It'll come in the next 6 to 12 months. Businesses will start wondering, hey, where's my data going? How can I be compliant with this? Really interesting. And even the loading the stuff into the GPTs, the publicly available GPTs, if you think of accounting firms and law firms and all these professional services, there's so much power there that they cannot use because they cannot put client data in there. So what we have started doing is we're building custom LLMs for these businesses.
Yeah.
With secure data sources, your data, you own the data, it all comes down to the data. Load as many documents, this is not leaving your data source, correct? So giving them the ability to use these LLMs, and that's something in these professional industries, when I speak to accounting partners and law partners, they're like, hey, we can't use ChatGPT because I can't put in my client data. But if you can build a secure database, you can still clip on, one of these LLMs. So that's interesting. So I think that's going to be an interesting trend, and I think you guys are handling it amazingly. Now, how with AI and all these changes, all these crazy things happening, right? And we're both in the finance industry. How do we future-proof our businesses from AI? Interesting question, right?
Yeah, I probably don't have the nicest answer to this question. I think it's a little bit like the internet era, and there were businesses going, how do we make sure we're not on the internet and stay loyal to our existing processes? The frank answer is you can't future proof your business against AI. AI is the wave. It's coming in. It's been the next natural step in our technology revolution for a while. But really, if you pivot the way you approach the problem a little bit, it's not about future proofing your business, but it's about understanding you're in this super unique time in all of our lives, and I don't think it'll come around again that often, where there's so much power in your hands to pivot faster, innovate better, and leverage so much technology out there that, there are businesses out there today. And I think if you think AI could be a risk to your business, it is. Full stop. If you can see the hole in the wall and you can go, yikes, I just figured out how I could have used AI to disrupt my own business, somebody else will figure it out, and you will face the risk of that. But at the same time, there's so many other ways to approach it. This isn't the motor car coming in and replacing horse-driven carriage, right? This is a turbocharger coming in and just making everything faster. So how do you look at your business and say, well, I need to go back to my golden days and pivot quick? How can I become an agent of that change? How can I be the disruptor that would have disrupted me? There's so many ways to leverage that, because one thing that AI doesn't have today is that human factor, that need for constant innovation, and that hunger for change and success, and that problem-solving way of approaching things that aren't even problems sometimes. AI isn't curious, it isn't strategic, it is a missile, right? So if you can learn to harness that and you can point it in the right direction, I think that's a much healthier way to approach this AI wave. If it's going to disrupt your business first with it. Become that disruptor. If it's an opportunity you see, leverage it straight away. I mean, today you have businesses that in the past, I mean, when we were first talking about starting our own things, it was, how much funding can we get, and how big of a team do we need, and where do we locate the team, and how do I run all this stuff, and who's going to take the risk, and how much equity do I give up? Today, Shamil, some of the ideas we used to talk about back on the golf course, sitting and having a beer, was something that we could do with $60 of subscriptions today. You have a fully run marketing team with a tech front end GUI and a agent that does all of your hard work for you, and that to me is amazing, right? You had this concept. Thing we discussed kind of early 2020s of incubators within large businesses, and they would go and hire teams to work as internal innovators within their business. Again, today that's one guy with an idea and $100 a month of subscriptions, and he can build prototypes, and he can go out there and experiment really quickly. The go to market is days, not weeks or months or years anymore. I think that's the right approach to have, because it's really not about being afraid of AI replacing you or anybody else. It's about, how can I operate at 2x, 3x, 10x with AI so that I am irreplaceable, because I know how to leverage these tools properly. And that's what the slight mindset shift has to be, I think.
That's really cool. That's really powerful. So I think what you're saying is it's a more offensive mindset than a defensive mindset with AI. And I agree with you. I think we're at a really interesting point of time where it's excitement rather than being scared. And I feel like, especially as accountants, because a lot of our audience are accountants and finance leaders, there's an opportunity where the crowd's it's going to part, the seas are going to part, and there's going to be people left behind, and there's going to be people that adopt it. Those people that adopt it, I think what you're saying is, can operate at 5x the velocity of someone who doesn't, and they're going to be this gap, and they're going to be able to, move forward in their careers and move into those more senior roles and be seen as finance leaders with technology as core part of how they work. Now, the way I also see it is that's AI and technology is going to integrate into all other parts of and other departments. So if you are seen as a finance leader that is adopting technology, you're going to relate more now to other parts of these businesses as well, right? So you're going to have more buy-in and more influence as well. So I think it's really interesting, and I agree with you. I think it's exciting. There's going to be some change. And I think the role of an accountant is going to significantly change. Even as a tax agent, it has continually changed over the last 5-10 years, where that transactional stuff, your passes, your ITRs, that's not what clients pay you for now. Clients pay you for the value add. How can I structure this? How can I drive my ROI? How can I increase my GP, right? So an accountant's role will turn into what an accountant's role should be is, hey, making numbers talk, right? Driving change, profitability, all that sort of stuff. So thanks for sharing that. I think that was really powerful. All right. Now, one final question for the audio, for yourself. Now, if for our listeners here today, if there was one key message or lesson that they could take away from this, what would it be? I know we've covered a few different things, right? It's a tough one. But if it was, if you're a finance leader, or you're a finance professional, or you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, and if there was one message you can take out of it, what would it be?
I feel like I'm a GPT being asked to summarize the last 40 minutes. I think for me it would be, don't fear AI. Understand it. It's level the playing field, like we said, and success is going to come to those who can adapt to it, adopt it, and find its purpose fit, not taking it on for just because they have to. It's going to come from really having that curious and strategic mindset and doing the thing today we can only do that AI cannot, which is being human. Approach it with caution, approach it with understanding, and approach it with the idea that it's going to make you better. With that mindset, I think anyone can leverage anything and just find the best way to make themselves better through it.
Awesome. That is amazing. Well, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to remind myself of that as well. That's great advice. Nero, I was just thinking, I don't know if you remember, but I remember ages ago, we had an idea to build a golf app. We didn't know how to do it. And it was me, you, and two of the other boys, and we were trying to build a golf app so we can book a round of golf and it makes golf clubs. Well, it still hasn't happened. And this has been at least 10 years now, maybe 10 years we had the idea. None of us were software guys, and we didn't know how to build it. I think we spoke to an external person, and we didn't have the money for it. We were like, oh crap, it's expensive. But that's interesting. That problem still hasn't been solved. So there you go. Just some food for thought.
I'll be down in Melbourne in a few months if you want to get a coffee and go to the same golf range and have a chat.
Yeah, I'll be up for that. Matt, appreciate your time. Thank you for taking this call. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure viewers and listeners would learn a lot as well. Please do share a quick demo on your product, on how we can, I'd love to see how you use that data. It's really intriguing for me, actually, because I'm trying to visualize it and I can't quite get it. So I'd love to see how it works. And I'm sure, I'll leave a link for this as well at the end of this podcast. And really appreciate your time. Looking forward to catching up in person, and have yourself a lovely weekend, Matt, and we'll speak soon.
You too, Shannon. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
See you,
Bye-bye.